And therefore, no matter what, no matter which way you look at it, this reveal is clearly just a mistake in the series. So, Secrets of Dumbledore finally gives us an answer to the question that was left to us at the end of Crimes of Grindelwald. Namely, who exactly is Credence Barebone? And at the end of Crimes of Grindelwald, we finally get that his real name is actually Aurelius Dumbledore. But the thing is that this is just wrong, because the answer we get in Secrets of Dumbledore can't possibly be correct. What do I mean? Let me show you. Here we go. So, I really do love to create fan theories. I think fan theories serve a great purpose. They bridge the gaps in the lore, and they actually do a great job at explaining plot holes that might be created in the series. But every once in a while, there is just a mistake. A mistake that no fan theory can really do justice, and is just wrong in the canon. And that brings us back to Credence. So, a few weeks ago, prior to the release of Secrets of Dumbledore, I put out a video on who I think Credence actually was. And in this video, I offer a pretty complicated explanation involving the Philosopher's Stone and some new kinds of magic in order to create him. However, Secrets of Dumbledore offers us a much simpler explanation. See, both of these explanations were trying to reconcile information that we had learned about Credence's character in Crimes of Grindelwald. Namely, that Credence's siblings are a big part of where the plot appeared to be headed. And Crimes of Grindelwald ends with two huge reveals about Credence's true identity. The first being that he is Aurelius Dumbledore, and the second being that his brother seeks to destroy him, his brother in this case obviously referring to Albus Dumbledore.
Your brother seeks to destroy you.
And this brings me to Occam's Razor. See, Occam's Razor is basically the principle that when in doubt, the simplest solution is usually the correct solution. And one can look at my theory about who Credence really was, his connection to the Philosopher's Stone and all that, as an extremely complex explanation to his identity. And comparing that to the relatively simple explanation we get in Secrets of Dumbledore, that really does fit Occam's Razor better. Except for the fact that it doesn't. Because Occam's Razor is predicated on that explanation actually making sense. And so the explanation we get to who Credence actually is in Secrets of Dumbledore is that he is simply Aberforth's son. And Grindelwald lied about who he actually was, lying about the fact that Albus was his brother, when Albus was actually his uncle. But could that actually have been true? Because I did posit on both these ideas in my previous video, and yet I decided that both of them were extremely unlikely. And it's Secrets of Dumbledore that adds more to this as well, because Secrets of Dumbledore also seems to try really hard to reconcile this issue, and in the end comes up short. See, Aberforth is a very simple character to attach credence to, because the books don't really go into him. Aberforth as a character is first introduced in Goblet of Fire in passing, and is basically only mentioned as a background character all the way until he finally appears in Deathly Hallows. And because we're mostly concerned about Albus's backstory, Aberforth's backstory is basically left undiscovered in the main series. And now that the series is saying that Aberforth's son is such a vital character to the plot, it feels like this is when we'd actually start to learn about his character. But Secrets of Dumbledore basically fails at developing Aberforth's backstory at all. They give us absolutely no more extra information about who he is other than the fact that he had a son. Even the identity of Credence's mother is left a mystery at this point. And a cynical eye could easily see that this might have not actually been the original intention for Credence, because this kind of shoehorns in who he is, as opposed to who they were trying to represent him in the previous film.
An obscurus grows in the absence of love, as a dark twin. An only friend. If Credence has a real brother or sister out there that can take his place, he might yet be safe.
And there's distinct evidence that Credence was not intended to be Aberforth's son. See, while giving him that family connection actually did resolve the huge plot hole of how Credence couldn't possibly exist, it ended up creating another plot hole. Namely that in Secrets of Dumbledore we find out that Aberforth actually had a child with a woman he met during the same summer Albus met Grindelwald, which is a huge problem because we know exactly when this happened. See, Albus and Grindelwald met in the summer of 1899. We know that for a fact because we know that this summer was the summer after Albus graduated, and he attended Hogwarts from the years 1881 to 1888. Sorry, 1892 to 1899. I keep getting that year off for some reason. But from there we can quickly deduce that if this is when Aberforth and the woman had a relationship, then Credence would have certainly been born in the year 1900. And this creates a huge issue. See, back in Crimes of Grindelwald, we find out that Corvus Lestrange was born in 1904, which creates a huge problem because Leta Lestrange switched Corvus and Aurelius back when they were babies. But you see the problem here, right? Because Corvus Lestrange, as a baby, should look nothing like Aurelius Dumbledore, who is 4 years older. This isn't a mistake that people can easily make, because there's a huge difference between an infant and a 4-year-old. And while this explanation seems to have been added in order to explain why Grindelwald knew about Aberforth's son, it was something that we didn't need an answer to, because Grindelwald is established to be a seer, and so he could know about Aberforth's son even if he wasn't there. He could have known how this person was shipped away and had all this information without directly being connected to it. But the fact that we know that Grindelwald knew about this relationship creates another issue with the story. Because at the end of Crimes of Grindelwald, our old pal Gellert decides to tell Credence that Albus is actually his brother. Which, because we find out in Secrets of Dumbledore, Grindelwald actually knew about exactly how Credence was related to the Dumbledore family, it makes even less sense here for him to lie about his identity. He could have simply just told him the truth. He was a Dumbledore that was abandoned by the family who would absolutely turn their back on him. And if you need to give Credence any more reasons to not trust the Dumbledores, just tell them what happened to Ariana. Tell them about the story about how they had a sister who was also an Obscurial. A sister who they had permanently confined to their house, who wasn't allowed to go outside or even go to school. A sister who, in the end, they directly contributed in killing. I mean, if there was ever a persuasive argument for Credence to not like the Dumbledores, that's a pretty good one. The combination of abandoned parental figures and the fact that they had previously killed another Obscurial, that's pretty good reasons for him to not trust them. And yes, we know from the Dumbledore's perspectives that they had good reasons for this, but that's not something that Credence would know. Ultimately, it makes Grindelwald's lie in the last movie entirely pointless, because we're in a situation where the truth would actually be more persuasive than the lie. Not to mention the fact that if Credence was born in the year 1900, this creates a weird issue with Tina, because Tina in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them constantly refers to how young Credence is.
I saw you hugging that second Salem boy.
His name's Credence. His mother beats him. She beats all those kids she's adopted, but she seems to hate him the most.
But if he's born in the year 1900, not only is he older than we previously thought, he's actually older than Porpentina Goldstein herself. Not to mention the fact that he was born before World War I. And he would have hit 18 before World War I had actually ended. So our poor child Credence, who had this Obscurial, should have been drafted into the war. Honestly, it's a timeline issue that creates many rippling effects when you start to think about it. And so if we revisit our old pal Occam and his famous razor, we seem to be offered two simple explanations. Either Credence was always intended on being Aberforth's son, and all the weird inaccuracies and issues with the script were just simply mistakes going into it, or Credence was originally just supposed to be Dumbledore's younger brother. And J.K. Rowling simply forgot that back in Deathly Hallows, she explained that Percival died in prison. And after discovering that Percival couldn't have another child, she had to fit in a way for Credence to be related to the Dumbledore family. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that J.K. Rowling has seemingly forgotten key details about a character and kind of retcon them in this series. And therefore, no matter what, no matter which way you look at it, this reveal is clearly just a mistake in the series. And in most honesty, it probably wasn't intended to go this way and had to actually be retconned in order to fit with most of the canon. And yet the retcon still doesn't fully work, creating all these issues with the story. But guys, that's just what I think. Do you guys have a really good explanation that solves all these problems and makes Credence's identity fit in the canon that we have been given? Or can you, like me, find no theory that sufficiently explains it and are left with the fact that this was just a mistake? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.